going on, guys? Welcome to the After Hours. I had to come back on here. Some really cool shit happened. Really cool shit. Something I'm very appreciative of too. But we'll break something down. I think something that I want to speak on before I tell this story is that, you know, when you're always respectful to people, you're always nice, like you take people into consideration, like you never know like how far and how long that connection holds itself. You know, it can hold for a time that you don't even realize. And I got this cool opportunity about a month ago, and I got a DM in my Instagram from somebody I had known over 10 years ago. I haven't seen this girl in forever. And she was always a nice girl. I was always nice to her. And she had told me that at her job that they were looking for a new barber to potentially take over this position. And I said, I'm interested in what it potentially could be. So she leads into it with, you would be cutting for the Post Malone concert in about a month. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, that's actually really awesome. That was like a really cool opportunity to feel like I could do that and be trusted with that type of like opportunity, which was awesome. But I told her to, you know, hit me up on my phone, shoot me a text. You know, we were still chatting over the Instagram DM. And, you know, I actually didn't hear from her for a couple of weeks. I thought, you know, like most people would, oh, it was kind of dead in the water, or maybe somebody else had filled the position. But, you know, she had finally texted me back, and she had let me know that she was dealing with so many other vendors. And I was like, oh my God, like, you know, I actually really appreciated that moment because she was telling me how hard she was working and she fit me into her schedule. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is really awesome. And she actually confirmed that, you know, be at the show. And I was like, this is kind of like something you don't really think is happening by any means. So I got to the stadium in Camden and pulled up. Everybody was looking at the car. It was cool. I was talking to a couple people about that. And, you know, the vibe of the day was good. I usually talk about not having a vibe for things and just kind of going straight into your day, you know, kind of like make it objective. But like, this was one of those things that was so out of the ordinary. I was like, yeah, there's a good chance like I might see Post Malone today, or, you know, like I might get a chance to cut his hair. And I was like, holy shit, this is like, it's one of the things, like sometimes your mind like tells you like all these things it could be, but like you don't know really what the fuck it's going to be. It's just whatever it turns into. So I get there, you know, they walk me through like a couple layers of security. I'm like, oh shit, this is interesting. And then we're just talking and we're catching up, and, you know, I really appreciated the opportunity, you know, wanted her to know that, because, you know, my barbering career has been good from the things that I've done and the things that I've been introduced to. And this was like a new thing. It's like I had never cut for a venue before, especially not one like, you know, that I'd ever think would be Post Malone for like my first one. I was like, this is fucking cool, man. Like, this is dope. So we get back, and like, she's got all these signs, like kind of point towards the barber area. And I'm like, yo, this is cool. Like they set this up. And she's like, all right, well, there's a sign up, you know, and then you'll just start cutting people. And I told her, I don't really need a break. Like I was only supposed to do it from like 1 to 4 or something like that. You know, whatever it was. So I'm going through, and like, this is what the experience kind of turned into. I'd ended up cutting 11 people from like 1 to 6. I was only supposed to work till like 4 or 5, but I didn't mind. Like, I love cutting anyway. I love talking to these people. Like, I really enjoyed the conversation from everyone prior, that I was like, I don't really care. Like, I'll cut till there's really nobody else to cut. Like, you know, she may not have known that like, this is what I really love to do. So like, that's how much of an opportunity it was for me, like to speak to a mind that I've never like heard from before. I was like, this is different. So my first person, regular guy, sits down, and he's the tour manager. And I'm like, you're Post Malone's tour manager? And just casually, like, he's like, yeah. And, you know, to him, like, that's his job. And I was like, wow, this is so new for me to hear. I was just so curious about him. I'm like, oh, so what's it like? Like, what you run this? And he's like, such like a humble dude. Like, he had such like an objective like mindset towards like the tour, and he like really explained how much like these people were like family. It was really cool, and just explaining that there was so many other stages, and that he was one of 100 people that is part of Post Malone's road crew. And I'm like, holy shit. And I guess the wild part is I thought 100 was a lot. And here he goes, no, this is a relatively small crew. Drake has 300 roadies and Beyonce has about 500. And I was like, whoa. And they all travel on buses together, like in these tours. And, you know, he was breaking down the lifestyle of what it was like to be the tour manager and like what he was responsible for and how important his role was. And I'm like, wow. He was like the head guy that makes sure the head guys like keep trickling down, and like it's a chain of 100 people, and that's small, which is crazy. Like it takes 100 people for Post Malone to step on stage, and I'll tell you what, the show was incredible, like unrealistic. But you know, kind of moving down the line, like some of the more like really personal conversations I was having with them, I met a cello player. And she had got this really cool, like crazy mohawk style cut, right? And all she wanted was just like a chop out. And I was like, all right, cool. Like no fade, no nothing. Like she had such like an edgy look. And she was talking to me about it. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to be playing cello for this concert. And I'm like, no way. So she starts showing me like some of the stuff she does. And I'm like, wait a minute, Post Malone has like an orchestra in his concert. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. And then shortly right after I cut her, then I was talking to the music manager and cutting his hair. And then he starts explaining how much he's running the band, which is running, you know, behind the scenes like this. And there's other people backing them up to make sure they do their position. And I could tell you, like, my head was in fucking 40 million places, but I was so curious to, like, see what else was going on. I'm like, this is so crazy. Like each individual that I cut had such a responsibility that had another responsibility that they couldn't even control. And then you see the show and it's like, holy shit, 100 people like work together perfectly to create this amazing show. You know, it was crazy. You know, one that really stuck out was the pyrotechnician, explaining to me how there was over 400 mortars that were going off like in between the show, and they had to be weighed a certain distance from the ceiling and away from Post. And, you know, and then there's a guy that's in the background telling Post, okay, move this way, that way, like, you know, directing him. Like, oh my God, I could run this forever. But like throughout the whole thing, like going through this whole experience, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And then you kind of got the bummer that, you know, Post Malone wasn't getting his hair cut. And I was like, oh, like you gotta be kidding me. Like, and you know what? I was kind of like sitting in my head, like, you know what? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I got a chance to learn so much. Like, I felt like I had already like connected with the guy, like from just the perspective of his like tour managers and explaining like how in tune they were with him and like how great of a person he was. You know, like I didn't get to experience like Post in that way, like the way they did, but I never heard so many people in such a collective thought about somebody that I was like, damn, like this guy must do some amazing things for these people. You know, they speak so highly of him. Like they tell me, or, you know, they were telling me how hard the job was and like what they sacrificed to do it. But they're like, nah, like this guy's like amazing. Like it's worth it. You know, all the things they go through, all the crazy lifestyles. Like here's what was really crazy that they told me. They got there in Camden at 2:30 in the morning, right? And this is what this is cool ass conversation I got with the carpenter. You know, he's like, yeah, we roll in 2:30 in the morning. Everybody's getting up, you know, kind of doing their thing. Everybody gets like a little time to get together. And then boom, they hit the stage. And they're right there just building everything that needs to be made for the show. It's like, you know, like when we're setting up for the podcast or we're setting up for any like type of filming, it's like, you know, these guys are setting up for something like crazy spectacular and they only got a couple hours to do it. You know, like this is all super, super intricate and like professionals at like the highest level doing this. Like it was insane. But, you know, they were explaining their day and it's like 2:30, they get in there, 3:30, they're already in full swing. And then next thing you know, they all met up with me in between the hours of 1 and 4 and the extra 2 hours. And it was that half an hour break for them to just kind of take their mind off like work for a second. Like you see how hard these people work and it's like, wow. Like it was truly amazing. And to hear their perspectives about life it's kind of different. You know, they live, you know, they're living on tour buses. You know, I will say their food is ridiculously good. Oh my God. Like they had brought me back to like eat with everybody. And the food that the chef was making that they got like with them on tour, like it's crazy what they have on tour. Like I haven't even like cracked open the surface of it, but like there's so fucking much that like is going on. I tried to digest every little bit of that shit while I was there. But you know, at the end, I got such a good review from everybody that by the end of it, she had actually invited me back for the 50 Cent show. And it was kind of one of them things where something I just do normally, you know, was what somebody needed, like outside of what I already do for myself. And it was cool to be able to give, you know, it was cool to be able to give this girl who gave me an opportunity, like, the okay that it's like, I can fill your position. And, you know, like, you can be confident enough to do that. You know, I was actually really nervous before I did this. You know, I was kind of like, yo, I have no clue what to expect. Like, it's new. Like, you know, me and myself and I get nervous just like everybody else when it comes to doing new things. Like, you don't know what to expect. Like, you know, you kind of have to go into it open-minded and, I don't know, you know, head up, you know, respect people, you know, understand the structure of the room you're in, you know, what's your job, like, you know, like there was a million things going on through my mind. And then I remember I just got to the chair to start cutting and it was like, man, this was crazy. You know, I was overthinking the shit out of it. It was just doing what I usually do normally. And I was like, this is such an amazing opportunity. And I really thank like the girl for really like, you know, looking out for me. You know, like I said, I haven't seen her in over a decade. Like for her to actually reach out to me and have me in her thoughts was one of them things where I was like, wow, that's really, that's cool. You know, I'd never think of that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you don't know what something means to you until like you reached out so far that it's like, wow, this person thought about you in that regard. They could have thought about anybody, you know. I feel like that was one of like those moments in my life where I was like, I appreciate myself for like always knowing I was doing the right thing, but never knew when it would actually like come to fruition. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited to do I'm excited to do the 50 Cent show. That's going to be really interesting.
Should have got a post on the podcast.
Oh, if I could, I would, man. If I could, I would. But you know what's crazy? Like I said, I it wasn't really much interaction. It was more or less just I had to kind of like do the best I could to maybe understand what was going on, to kind of understand like what type of person he was. Like I said, it's like kind of like in my own thoughts, the way they kind of like make themselves. But you know, to see what it takes and then to have him do his thing, you know, for that to come together and then have the venue, like so many things got to go into play. I really don't think people understand that. You know, when you see a pissed off customer somewhere, oh, this is fucked up. It's like, oh my God, there's so many things happening right now that, you know, dude, it's such a team effort. Like it almost shows you like a professional sports team, you know, like if they're a really winning team, it's like, you know, they're probably all working together, like they're more connected, like, you know, they understand each other on such like a deeper level. Like I feel like the people on Post Malone's like tour crew, like they are in such tune with each other. Like they have such a very like inner perspective of how each other work to like actually make like that show happen. It's so fucking cool, dude. So cool. And like I said, it was such an opportunity that I'm like, I'm grateful that at this point in my career, I can be trusted with something like that. You know, like that's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. I'll let you know what happens with 50 Cent. Maybe I cut him, maybe I don't, but if not, I want to learn about that shit too. Peace.